Hi, my name is Matthew Yahov, and today we're going to talk about URL filtering. Versa operating system supports a wide variety of the security features, and the one we're going to review today is going to be URL feeds and filtering. What is URL filtering and what it allows us to do? URL filtering allows you to create company-wide rules to block user access to certain internet resources. Let's say block or restrict access to certain resources. You can take, like, for example, category-based actions, reputation-based actions. You can create your own regular expressions for the websites which needs to be blocked or restricted. And of course, it works for both unencrypted and encrypted traffic. Now, the main principle is that your users in the LAN network, such as sales, marketing, and engineering, are accessing certain internet resources. And every time they access those resources, your Versa OS device will decide, should I allow or block this session? And you can create those rules not only for the company-wide, but you can create it per users, per groups, per IP addresses, per even ports, and so on. So there are a wide variety of the ways how you can configure all this. Now, if we're going to review in a little more details how the URL filtering actually works and what is the process of establishing the HTTP connection to the web server. So let's say that we have a user on the left, which is the sales user. And this user is trying to access Microsoft website for the Office 365. So the very first thing that will happen, the user will establish three-way handshake for the TCP to establish the TCP session. So we have this session established, and the next step is the TLS hello. The TLS hello or SSL hello, or actually basically the SSL session establishment, is happening in order to get this certificate, which is going to be used by us to encrypt or secure the connection between this user and the website. So when the user establishes connection, the first message that he will send is going to be TLS hello, in which we'll have the actual domain name to which we are sending a request. So for example, if it is to the Microsoft.com website in your browser, the request in the TLS hello is going to be Microsoft.com. And this is something that is being passed in the unencrypted way. And this is just the way how it works in the TLS version 1.2, version 1.3. In the latest version 1.3 with some additions, the community tried to make this request encrypted as well, but for the majority of the websites, I would say 99.999%, it's still in open format. Of course, after the second step, we establish the secure encrypted session, and inside of that encrypted session, we start passing the actual data. So there's going to be HTTP GET request, where we will request the actual URL which we want to request from the website. For example, it's going to be www.microsoft.com, Microsoft 365. So this is what is going to be in the HTTP GET request of the actual request which is sent from the browser to the internet resource. The main point that I want to do on this slide is that we don't need to decrypt the traffic to understand what is the actual FQDN or the domain name which is being requested. So based on this information, we can always see in the clear text, unencrypted text, what is going to be the final domain name which is going to be requested. Based on this, we can of course understand what is the reputation, what is the category, and so on and so forth. And now, as we reviewed how everything works under the hood, let's review what we can do from the Versa URL filtering standpoint. So first of all, we have category-based actions. For example, you can create your actions for the categories such as advertisement, auctions, dating, guns, gambling, and so on and so forth, and you can create rules for each of these categories, whether they should be allowed or disallowed. Of course, you can create your own custom categories with your own list of websites or regular expressions that you want to create. And also, system creates and actually by default being supplied with the multiple predefined profiles from the Versa, such as, for example, block all adult content, or maybe block all games and advertisement and adult content, maybe block all the communications, block all mail and communication, or predefined corporate profile. So all of those are already provided to you, which you can use out of the box. Okay, let's have a little practice. This is the topology that we're going to be using. Here we have a client from which we're going to be doing verifications. We have SD-WAN device, branch A, and we have internet switch through which we have access to the internet connection. This is our versa director on which we have this single branch managed by this director on my tenant. And let's go in the template and do the configuration. So the template which is associated with that branch in my case is standalone security to WAN 1 LAN. To configure URL filtering, we would need to go to the services, next generation firewall, in here security and policies. By default, when you enable next generation firewall, system will pre-create two rules. One of them to allow all connections from the trusted networks, such as LAN network, and allow from the SD-WAN. So all the traffic which is coming from the SD-WAN towards LAN is also allowed. Let's enable protection for the LAN traffic, which is going from the LAN because that's how we're going to be verifying it. By default, we just allow this connection. Let's apply security profile, and let's apply one of the security profiles based on the categories. So for example, block all adult games and advertisements. And we can enable logging at the end with the default profile. Let's say OK, and apply this template to our device. And the template is 211 LAN. Let's apply it. Okay, now let's do verification. For verification, we're gonna launch console of this device. Here is. Let's log in. And let's open a Chrome browser. Okay, and to be absolutely sure that we are not loading anything from the cache, we're going to open incognito mode. So let's verify that we have access at least somewhere, for example, google.com. Yes, we have access. Let's open connections somewhere like quake.com with the game's content. And the system is saying, no, connection is rejected. Similarly, we can verify, for example, how the ad blocker is working. Let's go to the web page where we always have a lot of advertisements, for example, yahoo.com. So you can see that the advertisement bar is not loading. And for example, if we're going to scroll a little down, usually there's going to be much more advertisements on the right here and so on and so forth. So advertisement of the ad blocker is working by default as well. Now let's try to create some custom actions. For example, in the same allow from trust rule, instead of using one of the predefined URL filtering profiles, we're going to create our own. So here's the button, add new. And this is going to be a custom video profile. By default, we're going to set action to allow all the traffic. And we're also going to go in the category-based action. And here we're going to add a couple of categories. So for example, first of them is going to be reject gambling. And we're going to say the action is reject. And the website is gambling. And okay. So next, we're going to add another one. But in this case, we're going to say deny government, and the action is going to be a drop session. Actually, there are two actions, drop session and drop packet. They're doing almost the same, and for this test it's not significant. It's more significant for other security features. So for now, let's just add government. Okay, and okay. And let's commit this template to our device so the changes take effect. For verification, we're going to use for the gambling sites, for example, casino.com. And check it out how soon we will find out that we can't reach this website. We're getting the rejection right away. This is because the reject action is sending ICMP code for us, which rejects the connection. Well, if we're going to try to go somewhere, for example, to the USA.gov as the government site, the action was drop that we set in the rule. So therefore, we'll just silently drop the packets and the client will not know that we're actually blocking this connection. It will keep trying, and we will keep blocking. Next, let's get back to our presentation. And second, we can do reputation-based actions. For example, there are 5 predefined reputation levels. It's going to be trustworthy, low risk, moderate risk, suspicious, and high risk. And you, of course, can define your own reputation-based actions for each of the levels. To show you how to do this, we need to go to the director, and let's actually modify the profile. Yeah, we can modify it from here. In the enforce view filtering profile. And in addition to the category-based action, we can create the reputation-based actions, where we can define, for example, for the predefined categories such as trustworthy, we want to allow it. And let's say allow trusted. But at the same time, we can create another rule which will say alert for something like low risk. And alert means that it will just log this information to the analytics system. So alert low risk. And for some others, like for example, for the remaining three, for the moderate risk, for the suspicious, and for the high risk, we're going to set the action as to reject. And let's say suspicious reject. Okay. And by the way, let's enable logging for this custom profile. Okay. And we're gonna apply this profile to this template to our branch device. Okay, we're good to go. Let's do verification. If we're gonna go somewhere, for example, to the google.com, it should be allowed. And google.com is considered a trustworthy website. By the way, if you want to check to which category the website belongs, you can check it from the Burst Director GUI. For this, let's open the administration device in the appliances. And by the way, this can only be checked from the device because we're checking this from the device perspective, not from the template perspective. So anyway, on the device, we should go in the objects, custom objects, URL categories, and here is going to be lookup URL button. When we're going to click on this, we're going to check that, for example, google.com is a trustworthy website, and the category to which it belongs is the search engines. Let me find something untrustworthy. For example, one of the main names I registered a very long time ago, lestat.kiev.ua. So if we're going to check this one has category suspicious, so it should be blocked based on the reputation that we just assigned. And let's actually try to go there. So we're going to try to open lestat.kiev.ua. Ta-da! We're blocked right away. Now let's see where we can do verification for all of this and where it's all logged. For example, if we're going to go back and we'll go into the analytics, okay, here we can go in the logs, in the thread filtering, and here in the URL filtering category, for the last day, we can see that, for example, suspicious category was rejected, and this one is Lestat Kiev UA. We requested this website and it was blocked. Before that, we were going, for example, to the advertisements, and when I was showing you how advertisements were blocked, so here is here's the categories which were blocked by the profile block, all adult games and ads. And currently the one which is suspicious blocked by the custom video profile which I just applied. Okay, getting back to our presentation. So next is the URL filtering based on the pattern or the string. In the custom URL profiles, which I just showed you how to use for the category-based actions or for the reputation-based actions, we can also see deny list and allow list. Deny list and allow list always check before category-based action and reputation-based action, so we can use them to make an exceptions for the categories or for the reputations. But also we can use them just to block certain websites. For example, you can block things such as facebook.com or yandex.ru or something else, or you can do this based on the pattern, and we support Perl-based regular expressions for the blockage in here. Or for example, you can create situations when you want to block all the social media or social networking, but you want to only allow the Facebook, and you can add it to the allow list. So once again, deny list and allow list always check before category-based action. And now let's go do some practice. For example, we're gonna view our security rules, and in the custom profile that we're using, the custom video, we're gonna add the pattern to block everything on the facebook.com, and also with any statement after it. So we're gonna say okay, and we're gonna commit this template to the branch device. Okay, and now let's do verification. So getting back, just in case, let's just close all of those tabs and open the new incognito window. If we're gonna go somewhere like linkedin.com, one of the social media sites, social networking sites, we have access. But if we will try to go, for example, facebook.com, it's blocked right away because we created pattern for it. Now another example. If we're gonna go here in the security profiles and view our URL filtration, I'm gonna purposely create an example which shouldn't work. Like, for example, if we're gonna say Facebook/marketplace. So let's say that I want to allow Facebook, but not allow Facebook/marketplace. Actually, let's remove all the rules which we created in the categories previously, just to make a pure example. Okay. We will apply this to the device. Okay, and now let's go back to the client. We're gonna open a new incognito window to make sure that everything is correct. So facebook.com is supposed to be opening now, but if we're gonna try facebook.com/marketplace, supposedly it shouldn't open, but in fact it will actually open. Question would be, why is it opening? We put it in there, and the answer would be in the presentation and in specifically this slide. So we can only read the domain name which is requested in the unencrypted way. Everything else which is going behind this slash is something that's only going to be in the HTTP GET, which will be encrypted. So to make sure that we can actually block something from the more specific website, we need to enable SSL decryption. So let's do this. In my demo setup, I already pre-created SSL decryption profile, so now we just need to enable it because it was disabled. So we're gonna disable it, enable this SSL decryption for all the traffic. Now let's apply the new configuration from our template to the branch. Okay, and let's do verification. So here we're gonna open a new incognito window, and let's go. Facebook.com should be opening, but Facebook.com/marketplace should be blocked. So let's verify. Okay, and this is actually a very interesting example which I also wanted to show you. So if you will enable SSL decryption, it takes approximately 2-3 minutes to start working with the URL filtration. So I'm gonna pause just for 2 minutes and then relaunch the recording again. Okay, it's been exactly 2 minutes. So now let's launch a new incognito window and try again. Facebook.com/marketplace. And as you can see, it was blocked. And if we will try the same Facebook.com, it is opening. So once again, when you enable SSL decryption with the URL filtering, it takes approximately 2-3 minutes for the system to take this into effect and start working. So it's like a spin-up process. Okay, now let's get back to our presentation, and one of the last topics that we're gonna be covering today is gonna be URL filtration and cloud profiles. There is an estimate that the world has approximately 1.7 billion websites. So it's a huge number of websites, domain names, and so on. And the Versa aspect, the premium aspect, contains 2 million of the most commonly known and let's say the most popular websites which are used by the majority of the users. So in order to have the exactly correct information about which websites belong to which categories, are they trustworthy or not, we need to enable cloud profiles so we can on the back end reach out to the Bright Cloud. This is our suppliers of the URL filtration and URL categories, and enable dynamic negotiation or request of the information from the Bright Cloud. And by the way, so before we go into the configuration of the cloud profiles, I want to tell you that there are two ways of operations: synchronous and asynchronous. In the synchronous way of the cloud profiles for the URL retrieval, customer will wait until we will get the reply, and we'll be able to do the proper action based on the configuration. While in the asynchronous, we just send request to the Bright Cloud, but the first session is going to be allowed, while all continuous sessions like follow-up sessions will be disallowed because we will already have in the cache information about the URL that customer requested. So let's have some practice. Okay, so first thing that we need to do, we need to configure DNS server. So for this, we're going to go in the networking section, DNS, and here settings. So in this settings, we're going to enable DNS from my internet transport VRF, and let's point it to the Google. Second, for the system request, if we would want to verify if it works from the FlexVNF appliance, we also need to configure the domain name servers on the system level. So in this case, let's enable again from the internet VR. Source network is going to be iNet, and name servers 1, 2, 3, 4, so 8888. Okay, DNS configured. Next, we need to configure source net pool from which we're gonna send requests to the Bright Cloud. So for this, in the others, we're gonna go in the SNet pool, and here let's add the let's say SNet1, which will be working from the Internet Transport VRF. It's going to be using IP address of the iNet network, and let's say OK. Next thing, we need to configure the cloud profile. The cloud profile, which will be using SNet and DNS servers to send the actual request for the URL filtration. So in this case, we're going to specify the URL filtration cloud profile, SNet, this one, and connection pool. Technically, it can be any value. So let's say just 10. And don't forget to specify activation. So we're going to call it Bright Cloud. And let's say OK. And now we need to enable it. To enable it, we need to go to the next generation firewall. Here in the security settings, we're going to have URL filtering. And in the URL filtering, we're going to go in the cloud lookup profile, this one. And the mode is synchronous, and that's actually the one which I recommend you to use. And of course, we need to enable this cloud lookup profile. Okay, so we just did configuration. Now let's do verification. Actually, before that, we first need to apply the new template with the new configuration to the device. And let's apply it to this device. While it is applying, we will find a website which we cannot recognize with the regular URL filtering. So we need to go to any of the branches, physical branch appliances, in here in the objects and connectors, objects, custom profiles, URL categories. And one of these sites I know not in the premium aspect is, for example, gambler.ru. It's a Russian site for gambling. So if we're going to request in the regular way, it will say that aspect flavor is premium. URL database is loaded successfully, but we cannot find what is the category, what is the user-defined category, or anything else. So it's just saying that it cannot find it, and it's probably a suspicious website. So now, to verify the information or that our cloud profile is working, we need to go to the GNS3, open the console to this branch, go to the CLI. Here command is request org services URL filtering. So here we have two options, cloud lookup and just lookup. Lookup is the one which we just used in the GUI to look up information. This is from the loaded premium aspect database, and this one is going to be from the cloud. So we're going to use cloud lookup URL and gambler.ru. Here. So we figured out that this is the gambling. here is the reputation of this website, and so on. So we received information, and now all the clients which will be requesting or going through our system will be able to use this huge database of 1.7 billion websites from the Bright Cloud. And the last section is how to debug what was filtered or not filtered. So there are two main ways to debug the URL filtration. First way is through the verse analytics. Second way is through the local debug. And I'm going to show you both of them. For example, through the analytics, we need to go to analytics, logs, thread filtering, and URL filtering. So let's open our analytics. I'm going to go in the analytics here. Here we will open logs. In the logs, we're going to go to the thread filtering, and in the URL filtering, we have information. So here, for example, was request to the facebook.marketplace.com/marketplace, and it was rejected. Before that, we could see some others, so there are multiple pages, and probably I had multiple requests. So if we're going to show 500 records, it's going to show that there were requests to just regular Facebook, and the analytics by default will log only everything that is with the alert action and higher, like alert, drop, reject, and so on. Low actions will not be logged, so only the rejected will be specifically blocked in this case. Now, how do we debug from the CLI? Because CLI will allow us to have more granularity in the debug options. So for this, let's go into the branch. Here on the branch, just to show you from the beginning, if we're going to go in the CLI configure, to enable debug, we need to do set debug, URL filtering, level all, and all flags. Commit and debug. So the system will warn us that the debug log will grow rapidly, so we need to disable it as soon as we can. And now let's check where the debug is. So to check the debug information, we need to tail-sf file var log versa service.log. And now let's try to generate some information, some traffic, and see how it is evaluated by the system. So for this, we're gonna open our client. So here's the client. And let's open some pages. For example, google.com. We see a lot of information. So we see that there was a request to advertise google.com, how system identified it, what was the confidence, what was the category, and everything else. Then before that, we see that also there was a request to the OGS google.com and some others. So when we just went to the google.com, the system was actually requested multiple sites because there was multiple redirections from that page. At the same time, if we're going to try to go again to facebook.com/marketplace, it was blocked, and system will tell us specifically why. So reputation trustworthy, here's the profile which blocked, and actually let me cancel it. So where was it? Okay, so this is the category social networking. The profile is the custom video, which we rejected this, and the action was reject. So we see in much more details information about what and how was blocked by the system. This finalizes our video on URL filtering. I hope this was informative for you, and thank you for watching.